Good morning. It's Father Steve from St. Bridget Hermitage, and this is Moments with the Master. Our reflections today are on the book of John, chapter 21, 1 through 14. Have you ever considered returning to your old life, your old ways? When your walk with the Lord isn't what you think it should be, what you want it to be, maybe you're comparing yourself to somebody else and you just don't think you measure up. When you've taken on a project, try to do something for the Lord and you failed miserably maybe, or even worse, return to an old habit, an addiction, a toxic relationship. When your Christian walk seems to be more of one step forward and two steps back. When you just don't feel the presence of the Lord. Yes, these times of spiritual abandonment and darkness, it affects us all, myself included. They even affected St. Peter, who after seeing the risen Lord returns to his old vocation. He must have at this time felt the weakest apostle, the weak link. So he does what we often do. He just hides. He just tells himself, like we've probably told ourselves, we're just not good enough anyways. Well, it's during these times the Lord is really reaching out for us. He's calling us. It's a small, still voice. Maybe it's the voice of a friend. Maybe it's the voice of a minister. Maybe it's something you heard on TV or on the radio. The Lord is always reaching out for us. Sometimes we just don't recognize His voice. It takes us a while. We see the apostles in this passage didn't recognize the Lord right off. It was St. John that recognized Him. And it was St. Peter who knew that his salvation and his forgiveness was at hand. It was St. Peter that jumped out of the water, swam to the Lord, ran to the Lord. He knew the Lord would forgive him. Christ always knows us better than we know ourselves. He's given us a gift of faith, and that faith opens our eyes when the Lord calls. Jesus commanded St. Peter to let down his nets after a bad night of fishing. When did this happen last time? At the beginning of his ministry. He understood that Peter would recognize this and recognize that they did. Peter had to remember his first command when he said he would be not the fisherman of fish, but the fisher of men for the kingdom of the Lord. So he repeats this miracle. And sure enough, they recognized it. Do you recognize the presence of the Lord in your life? Are you listening to that small, still voice? Do you recognize the Master when he calls? The Lord reveals himself to each of us. He's given us that gift of faith. We just have to open our eyes. We have to run back to the Lord. Peter's a striking example of God's mercy, who, after 3 years of following the Lord and watching his ministry, listening to him, fellowshipping with him, at the last minute denies the Lord and denies him 3 times. But the Lord does great things with us. He forgives us. Peter's had ample opportunity to be forgiven by the Lord. The Lord will do the same for us. All we have to do is hear his voice and return. Whether it's 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, the Lord will forgive you. The Lord's mercy will reach out no matter what you're going through, no matter where you're hiding. The Lord will call to you. It's a matter of faith. Reach out to the Lord. Hear his call. That's a reflection for today. The Lord be with you. The Lord keep you. The Lord hold you in the palm of his hand. I wish you all a good day.